Hi, my name is Kitty Budawake Foss, and I'm the co-founder of Optimize. Welcome to Optimize. I call myself a storytelling astrologist because in astrology, the basic belief is that before you came back, we had a bus stop conversation where we kind of bargained for the energies, the story elements of our own story before we came back, and the time that we're born, along with the place that we're born and the day that we're born is click, a picture taken of our energies. And what we're hoping to do in Optimize is to have you learn where those energies were placed so you can live your best authentic life. This particular video is called Astrology Basics. It's just to kind of give us the paradigm, the construct of what astrology is. So what we talk about in astrology are the planets, the sign that they're in, and the house that appears in. What I start with is we're a circuit. We are a fuse. We are an energetic putting together. At the bottom of that circuit is the plate that is the same for everyone. It is first house is Aries, second house is Gemini, second house is Taurus, third house is Gemini, so on and so forth, going around. Your particular part of the plate is laid at an angle depending when you're born. And there's a conversation that's taking place in both the planet, the sign, and the house, along with that bottom plate. And the top plate is where the stars are at any given time and how they're moving. Again, part of this complicated conversation that happens, but it's how those energies are sparked in those houses that helps us look at our energy, where we are, where we want to go. And so that circuit is always firing with our auras and our energies and how we put that together. So the planets are what we're talking about. So an example of that is Mercury. Mercury is always talking about communication. Pluto is always talking about transformation. And when you join this course, you get a basics of the glyphs and the symbols that go with it. And so that you learn to read what's on your own chart. So we've got the planets. They're telling us what we're talking about. Venus, our relationship energy. Then we have the sign that they're in. All of the signs are assigned an element. So for example, let's go back to Mercury. Mercury, which was communication, is ruled by the planet Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. It's about what we think. It's about how our thoughts work. Pluto is ruled by the planet Scorpio. Scorpio is also the sign of transformation, but it's a water sign. It's like the water of the swamp. It's deep. It's always teeming. So we have a planet. We have a sign that they're in, which is an element. So that's how that energy shows up. And then there are 12 houses. And the house that planet is placed in your chart is where the conversation takes place between that element and that planet. Now, because that bottom plate is established, there's always another element and another planet in play here. And yes, at first it's like, this is just a lot of pieces, but there are archetypes. There are, actually, psychology is based on many of these. How are the patterns of the so below as above are put together? And so what we learn to do in astrology is look at that energy, how it's talking, where it's talking. For example, you might have something in the fifth house. Well, the fifth house is the house of fun and creativeness. So I know where this conversation takes place is around having fun and being creative and learning about that expression. Might be in something called the 11th house, which is the house of friends and blessing. So that might be where the planet's having its conversation. And the element, the sign, is what's interacting with that. So what we're teaching you in this astrology basics is, first of all, what the structure looks like. Here's the basic structure at all times. Always the first house is Aries. Always the second house is Taurus. Always the third house is Gemini on this bottom plate. Your plate, though, that's placed in between, that's sparking the energy, the conversation from source, literally the electricity, is talking to this bottom plate. Meanwhile, at this third level again of the plate, that's where the planets are moving in the stars. So sometimes the moon might be in a fire sign. So even though the moon is my private side, it is the side energy I use the most, it might have a fiery aspect, but that's not necessarily my moon, but they're going to have a conversation. Sometimes the conversation is going to be between fire and air. Well, we don't have fire and air, whoosh, or it might be fire and water. That can cause steam. So part of what we're looking at in the astrology basics are, what are the elements? What are the archetypes assigned to the planets, assigned to the signs themselves, and the house that they take place in? One of the biggest basics what we'll first talk about is, I was an elementary school teacher. Everything to me is a story. How am I going to remember it? I tell people your three main signs: your rising sign or your ascendant, your sun sign, which is what most people know about, that's your core, and your moon sign, which is your private energy that you use, are like an Oreo cookie. The two chocolate parts are the ascendant and your moon, and the core of who you are is the cream, which everything passes through. Sometimes you pull it apart, sometimes you bite through it. But knowing how those interact, looking at the elements that they interact in, also tells us a little bit about how we function from day to day. What is our core? Is our core an air sign, which is about our thoughts? And the air signs are Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. Different kinds of air, but still about thoughts. Are they a fire sign? Fire signs are Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. So is it about sparking and energy? Is it a water sign? Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer. So is it deep? Water signs are about the emotions. Or is it the earth sign? Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. Are we talking about the bigger pictures of Earth, the littler pictures of Earth, but we're talking still about that grounded? And those elements always play a part in what we're looking at in the basics of astrology. So those are the parts that we start to look at that make up you, the story of you, the energies that you use, what planet is talking to what other planet, depending what house they're in, depending who controls that house. You know, when I work with earth and water signs are feminine, air and fire signs are masculine. So looking at, is this about reception? Is this about expression? Looking at male and female. So there are a lot of parts to just the astrological basics, but knowing that piece, knowing that I'm dealing it with many different levels, is how I start to understand how my energy works. What is the story? Who are the big characters in my own players in the act that is my life? So we just wanted to make a little introduction video so that this is kind of the background you take a look at. When I look at an astrology chart, I'm going to see 12 houses. I'm going to see the first house and its meaning, the second house and its meaning, third house and its meaning. So that's where the conversation again takes place. What planets in it is, what are we talking about? The how. Am I talking about my communication? Venus. Am I talking about my relationship? My moon, my private side, one of the three big players. Am I talking about my private energy? Am I talking about spirit and how spirit talks to me? You know, the planet of Neptune, the planet of Jupiter. Am I talking about where I expand? In that same chart are basic points. It's a geometric sign, and we start to talk about things like our ascendant, which has a descendant, or our midheaven, which is what we're working towards being, our persona, and our IC or nadir, which is our less understood part of ourselves. You know, where it is in the chart itself, the shape of the chart. There's many, many levels. But as we just start to learn with the basics, we start learning about how the energy is organized. So I just wanted to pop on and make this little video. If you take a look at an astrology chart, you'll be able to see. I'm going to share this screen for just a minute. You'll see this is a basic astrology chart. Here's that first house, second house. See, these are the signs that rule them. This is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. This is the same for everyone, this bottom chart. Again, yours is laid at an angle on top of it. Here are the glyphs for the planets. Again, the planets tell us what we're talking about. The sun, we talk about ourselves. The moon, we talk about our private side. This one right here is called Chiron. We'll learn about that. That's your wounded healer. It's the wound that you learn from. This one is that Pluto, that transformational energy. And here again are the signs for the planet. So these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at when we take a look at our charts. But again, just take a breath. This is just to give you a basic introduction, and we're going to be going much further into all of these things. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Stephanie or myself. And again, welcome to Optimize.